You know, I'm a professional.
That's what everybody keeps saying. I'm just a professional. Everybody keeps saying that to me. I'm just a professional. I'm just a professional. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing that. You understand?
What are you going to do now?
What am I going to do? I'm going to leave. I got to go.
Go?
Yeah, I got...
Hey, come on. What about me?
Well, what about you? We've got 40 seconds.
Come on.
45.
Last wish, please.
Last wish. I wish you had more time. Hey.
So I've been doing videos on changing all the fluids on my 2019 Lexus GX460, and I did one for everything, all the fluids, transfer case, differentials, transmission. Did an old one year and a half ago on the motor oil and the coolant and greasing the drive shafts. Well, looking at the transmission drain and fill videos, I did one. I drained and filled it twice. I think I could have caused some confusion because I have a transmission cooler. I put a transmission cooler on my vehicle. So my oil pan probably, I imagine, holds less than what a oil pan without a transmission cooler holds. So when I put this transmission cooler on, it's unclear. All these transmission cooler manufacturers don't come right out and say, hey, my cooler holds, half a quart or a quart, add a quart, add that much to your system. Basically they say, you're going to have to add some, but don't tell you exactly how much. And I think with the transmission cooler, it's more difficult to bring it up to the right temperature, use the overfill port to test the transmission. So when I drain my pan, well, first of all, when I put the transmission cooler on, I pumped the cooler full of oil, as much transmission fluid as I could get in it when I installed it, and it only took about six ounces. So I think I only got fluid in the hoses. I don't think I was able before it would start pushing back out the hoses. But I think my whole cooler probably holds about half a quart, 16 ounces, just based on what I saw when I tried to fill it. So when I drained my oil pan, I was about a quart short. I only got 2.5 quarts out of my oil pan, which I think generally you get 3.5 quarts out. Now, I'm not going to add an extra quart. I'm going to only put an extra half a quart. So I've already got 6 ounces in there that I put in when I installed the cooler. When I did this drain and fill, I'm going to top it off with an extra 10 ounces. So net is going to be a half a quart. My feeling is I'd rather be a little low on transmission fluid than overfilled. So that's what I'm going to do. So when I drain my oil pan, I suspect going forward I'll have 3 quarts versus the 3.5 that I think you would normally see from the factory. Now, again, I'm just going by not experienced, by just what I've come across online. So that's what I'm doing. I took the video down. I don't know how helpful it is, but I just want to clarify that I do have a transmission cooler. It does hold anywhere from, or it does add the need to have at least a half a quart, maybe as much as a full quart, to fill the whole hoses coming in and out of the cooler and then the cooler itself. I'm not sure because no one will straight up say, hey, yep, if you fill this thing up. And maybe if in retrospect, I probably would have taken the thing, in a oil drain bucket before I put it in and filled the cooler itself. It would have been a mess. And then you can calculate the hoses, 8 feet of hose, 3/8 inch diameter. You can tell how much volume they hold, but I didn't do that, and I probably should have. So I don't think it would have held a quart. But so that's just to clarify. When I do my drain and fills on the transmission, I don't do the overfill process with this overfill plug right here. You know, bringing it up to temperature, because I think I, number one, have a hard time getting it to the right temperature. That to me is more, adds more uncertainty than just knowing that, hey, my cooler holds at least a half a quart more. And again, I'm erring on the side of not overfilling. I don't want to overfill the transmission. So that's what I did. So I drained and filled. Essentially, you know, I just pump it out of the quart bottle's transmission fluid, and then I pour what's left in the bottle into a measuring container and put essentially that's how I determine exactly how much oil goes in the oil pan to match what I drained out. And then the hose, the actual pump and the hose itself, I use 2 ounces as loss inside the pump and hose. So, you know, you're not, this is all cleaned out, but when it isn't cleaned out, it's holding oil, probably about 2 ounces of oil. So whatever I drain out, I'm not going to, you know, give you my number because I have the transmission cooler. But if you're, you know, DIYing this, essentially you pump out your jug, whatever's left after you're shooting air out of the pump, you pour the leftover dregs into a measuring container, and then subtract that. You know, this is 32 ounces. If you get, in my case, my pump leaves 4 ounces in the bottom of the container, but you want to check it every time. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5, depending on, you know, it's an awkward position how well you hold the bottle and get the bottom of the pump into the bottom of the bottle. So yeah, I'll just post this just saying that, yeah, I'm not going to show my process because it isn't a standard process because of the transmission cooler. So just want to clarify that. So I took the other video down because I just don't want people to get confused. Any DIYers that are doing the same thing, trying to do the same thing I'm doing, basically just replacing exactly what comes out of the oil pan. And, you know, if I get 3 quarts out of my oil pan, someone else is getting 3.5 quarts, that will be why, because I've got the transmission cooler. So I don't know if this clarifies or not, but yeah, that's my process. So I'll show as much as I can. Well, I'll show just topping this off right now. All right, so what I'm doing is my desire is to add 4 or 10 ounces to the transmission to account for what's in the transmission cooler. I already had 6 extra ounces, so what I'm looking for is a net 16 ounces of extra transmission fluid. So I've got 14 ounces measured out here because I know I'm going to leave 4 in the bottom of the jug when I'm done pumping. So we're going to put 14 ounces of oil in the jug to net 10 ounces in the transmission. So to me, it's much, I find it much more accurate, or I understand it better by just doing these measurements rather than guessing that I've got the right temperature and the right overfill and I'm just not comfortable with that process. Even if I don't have a scanner where I can actually where I can actually measure the temperature. And even then with the transmission cooler, that adds a whole nother complexity. So this is my process. So I'm going back in with 10 ounces into the transmission. Okay, I've got my 24 millimeter socket on a breaker bar. I'll come back in with my ratchet because this O-ring makes the plug a little tougher to come out. It's harder to screw up by hand. This O-ring makes it harder to get the plug out. That's the fill plug with the rubber O-ring, which is new. I put that on new the first time. The second time I did the drain and fill. Okay, so again, what I'm going for is 16 ounces more before the transmission cooler was installed. So I'm looking for a net addition of 16 to the whole system. So this is just the extra oil to account for the transmission cooler that I'm putting in right now. I've already filled it to the factory level before the transmission. Basically what came out of the oil pan is what I put back in. And then I felt I needed to add another 10 ounces. All right. And then we're going right back in with the plug. I'm snugging it with the ratchet, and then I'm going to torque it. Might calibrate it. "50 years of experience wrenching, torque wrench." So yeah, I'm just being a smart aleck. I'm not using a torque wrench. This is me going by feel. I know rubber O-ring, it's not a crush washer. So it's different. You don't put as much torque on it. let the O-ring do its job. So I'm just kind of working it in until I feel it. The thread's kind of dead stop without squashing the O-ring. There it is, total stop. And that's it. And I just had 2 fingers on the end of the breaker bar. I didn't have a full fist pulling on it. So there we go. Topped off to account for my transmission. So that's it, I'm good to go. One thing to note, you don't have to take any skid plates off. Everything's accessible without taking any covers or anything off. Pretty easy job to drain and fill the transmission. I noted this in my earlier videos, but the transmission holds over almost 12 quarts, and you're only draining out 20 or 25% of that. So holds 11.6 quarts. So I did it twice, and I was going to do it a third time. Basically, I did it once, drove about 50 miles. 5 days later, came back and did another drain and fill. The first time I drained it, it was brown color. Second time, it had a more red color. And I think a third time will be best. I've got to go get another jug of transmission fluid, but I'm going to do 3 drain and fills. And yeah, that's the story on my GX460 transmission drain and fill with the transmission cooler included. So hope this helps. Hope it's not confusing. But again, I chose to only add a half a quart to the entire system, 16 ounces, to account for the transmission cooler. If you look online, some people say anywhere from a half a quart to a quart. I'm err on the side of the lower volume because I'm real leery about putting too much fluid in a transmission. I think that's worse than having not enough. If it's a half a quart either way, I'd rather be a half a quart low than a half a quart over. So that's it. Till next one. Peace out, brothers.